Anver, welcome to the podcast. It is a real honor to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much, Payal. It's rather a pleasure being here, and it's actually I'm deeply honored rather to be a part of this podcast. And this is something very important I see at this point of time, and this is a very timely initiative which you've been carrying out every now and then, and which delivers different messages across the world. And you've been such an influential personality to influence and give people different messages where they're lacking out of their context. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you again. And before we dig into the generation of humanitarian leaders, you've had a great journey. What brought you to the healthcare side and connect with government?
That gives me a smile in my face. This
I
is
can see
something
that. Yeah.
goes down to my memory lane from 1977, where I was born on December 7th. People usually say that number 7 is a very lucky number, which I hardly believe, or which I hardly have it in my mind. So it was never in my card. So after that, both my parents are doctors, and by profession, but lately my father switched on to his own businesses, and then my mother was a medical administrator,
Okay.
a great medical leader in the country. So then I started schooling at Trinity College, Kandy, right throughout my career. It's one of the oldest school in Sri Lanka, and which has produced a lot of luminaries in different fields, in different specialities. Then soon after I left school, so there was this question: what next? Because I was not having enough marks to enter the Sri Lankan universities as a medical doctor. But being the only child in the family, you are left out with very little choices, because we come in rather Asian context where parental influences, the
Yeah.
family influences, take a great part.
Yes.
So they were pushing through me like, no, you need to get into medicine and do it again. Why don't you try it again? But I had been a guy who had never tried for the second time.
Mhm.
Either I tried, do it, and I leave it and keep my own path. So then I started working somewhere. My first profession was a personal assistant to a great leader of this nation. He was our former foreign minister of Sri Lanka, and he was our council, head, who was heading our college, rather the high school council. So I was his personal assistant. Rather, you call him in the slang language, podian. The guy who takes up the files, moves it here, gives him the files, gives him the books, gives him the records, take that piece of paper which he, scribbles around and keep it in your pocket. When he asks, you give it that. So that assistance which I was giving. And for about 1 year after that, I got selected to a university, Dow Medical College in Karachi. So that was a SARC exchange program where two Pakistani students came into Sri Lanka and two Sri Lankan students go into Pakistan. So I was there in Pakistan for 5 years in Karachi. So did my undergraduate there at MBBS, then came back to Sri Lanka to do my internship in 2003. Then went on with my internship in 2013, where my path changes. So I decided to do Masters in Medical Administration. So when I did my Masters in Medical Administration 2013, then I keep on doing it, continuing that, higher studies, and did my doctorate in Medical Administration in 2018. During that period, I had the passion of doing international relations and politics, which was always in my common. So that was my passion of understanding the international context, how all these internationally the things operate. I mean, though we see it in a very narrow scope where we take a lot of efforts to push things through, but it's always controlled beyond you. So you need to understand that optics of what to do next, So without knowing that broader optics, how much, however, the effort you put might not deliver better results. So that is where I was focusing of delivering better results to understand the global optics and where the world is moving through.
Okay.
Then I had this passion because I was doing administration. I had the passion of doing project management. I had the passion of doing human resource management. Then I had the passion of doing strategic management. Then I did my doctor's in business administration lately. And then I thought, okay, fine, studies is enough, gain experience. So that is where I was posted in different quarters of the country and to have experience in. And to tell you, the main turning point in life, which came into the national level, was it was rather I don't see it like what others see. It was a blessing in disguise rather. It was heading the COVID operations, coordinator in charge of COVID operations, where a lot of people didn't want to take it up. It was an unprecedented event where the globe was facing. We have never seen this before. We didn't know what to do, what is next. So it was handed over to me by the Director General of Health Services, by then and the Secretary Health.
Hmm.
So I took that challenge, went forward, and that's where I started liaising with a lot of agencies, the UN agencies, the diplomatic missions, and even at the ground level, people with different ministries, with different departments, even with the military. The military had an enormous amount of support. Military gave a thumping support to succeed in our COVID story. So with all this context, I was molded into a different sphere of my life. So this is where the actual turning point came into.
This is nice. I mean, that the journey is really incredible from where you started off. But when you and I were speaking earlier, you were talking about that you have a lot of, you advocate for humanitarian leaders. Like, so how did you come up with this term? So, in fact, first, let me ask you, what does humanitarian leadership look like?
Okay, thank you for allowing me to coin that term here today. So see, when I was a postgraduate student in medical administration, a lot of my teachers were coming up with okay, leadership qualities, leadership styles. I mean, you keep on byhearting them. You keep on you when you take it into the slang language of Hindi, you ratify them. You just byheart them, like keep on byhearting. Okay, these are the qualities. Okay, these are the styles. Okay, this is how they had been. These are the examples. So within this whole sphere, the whole spectrum, which I thought, okay, one part is missing. If a leader is not sensitive to the ground, if the leader does not understand what needs to be delivered, what is expected out of him, it's not about the vision, it's not about the mission, what you're carrying out, it's not about the policy, it's not about you foresee things or you forecast things for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. It's about the ground reality. What do people expect from you?
Hmm.
So to know that, you need to be a better humanitarian than anything else before.
Right.
So that is where I thought of coining this term as humanitarian leaders. So humanitarian leaders are leaders with more empathy, not only towards their subordinates, not only towards their superiors, not only towards their peers.
Hmm.
It's about being more, having more empathy towards people who expect something to deliver. The people expect you to deliver something. So you need to have that empathy towards them to understand what do they need, where do they stand, and what is expected out of it. So that is where this term came in. It's purely with integrity and empathy.
So
Because I mean,
empathy,
yeah,
empathy is the main quality or a trait that we need when we talk about humanitarian leaders, right?
of course, yes. You take a simple example. Madiba, Nelson Mandela. That's in his book, his long walk to freedom.
Yeah, yeah. Read his biography also, yes.
Every 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 page, every other page, or every other chapter, he speaks about the discrimination, the differences between white versus black. So he himself representing a so-called community which
Right.
he has undergone, which he has faced, that gave him that boost, that gave him that energy, that gave him that morale to stand up for the truth, stand up for the justice. And that is because he had more empathy towards that XYZ community. So it's about having more empathy towards a specific organization, community, a social strata of people. And that is how you develop humanitarian leaders.
Wow. I mean, this is a fabulous definition that you have given, Anwar, because we tend not to, we tend to use words like empathy and all, but we really don't tend to coin the name humanitarian leadership. In fact, I myself believe a lot in humanizing the entire leadership process. So I think that is so wonderfully put. Coming to the political side, what challenges do leaders usually face when, in these economic times? Especially political
Okay.
leaders.
When it I mean that's a total different context of what I practice rather. So when it comes to politics, or when it comes to, say, politics play a major role in any part of the globe, because all policies are made, all policies are being governed through political willingness. That is how the policies are being implemented. That's how the policies are being put forward, where matching the demand of the people. So when it comes to that context, I rather believe it's about having social, economical, and cultural and humanitarian aspect of the domains. So those are the four domains which I think Machiavelli in 1861, if I'm not mistaken, coming out to say social, political, and economical. I to add something more. It's about humanitarian. So you need to understand what do individuals need, what do the society need, and what do the state or the country needs, or what do the region needs lately. So likewise, if you take this context, we need to focus on all four areas. The best example I could give you was during COVID. So COVID was predominantly known as a medical disease. Everybody was following doctor's advice, everybody was following medical advice, everybody was following public health specialist advice. But it was beyond that. It was beyond that at a point of time where to control a disease you go into a lockdown. A term was introduced, a
Yeah.
lockdown,
Yes. Yes.
kind of a
Yeah.
curfew, lockdown. But but did any of those people have back in their mind, like, okay, fine, you do a lockdown, what will happen to these daily wages?
Yeah.
Who's going to feed their family? And how that will reflect, and how that will come back. And then again, another important question which we are still we are not prepared to answer, or still we don't have an answer for it. That is the mental agony, the mental trauma, mental stress which we had gone through. Because every lockdown doesn't mean that everybody has a comfort zone in their house. There are very few people go back to their you know night stays just to come back to work in the morning and be at a good mood,
Yeah.
and go back to their villages or go back to their hometown to feed their families. What will happen to them? Where would they stand? And what will happen to the daily wages? Imagine, forget about all those. What will happen to the daily earning beggars on the streets? Where would they go? Who
It was
would
a
feed
larger
them?
picture. Yes.
So
Much
this
larger
is
picture.
much larger picture. That is where the economic involvement comes into this whole context. And lately, after COVID, we have been hammered. The country, as a country, Sri Lanka, has been hammered with double burden, or dual shock, rather you call it. One was the COVID shock. The second was the economic shock.
Economic shock.
So lately,
Yes.
one was preceding the other. So during this time, so to overcome that, you need to make people come out of that mental stigma, mental, status. Fine. No, you are no more a person who needs to be behind covers. Come forward, work, move, push. So that has to be given. So that cannot be given by an individual who does not understand what the people at the ground are facing, what the people at the ground are really,
Yeah.
really experiencing daily. So that
Lovely.
is where this context is quite important to push through things.
Very nice. I think COVID is one of the best examples of seeing which leaders have had the humanitarian touch on people. So
Touch
you
people.
are going to be coming to India, and you have joined hands here with the government. Tell us a little bit about that, Anwar. I mean, that's so exciting.
Okay, that has not become a secret anymore, I suppose. Okay, I've been designated as a minister to the Sri Lankan High Commission in New Delhi, and I'm actually much more excited to take over that position. It's something totally deviating from my routine activities of being a medical practitioner, rather a medical administrator, and it's going to handle all global activities, all bilateral relationships, negotiations, networking. So this is one thing I strongly believe on a leader. On a leader, which I believe strongly is that leader should know how to engage and when to engage and why to engage. It's not about you and I engage
Mm.
for no reason. Okay, fine. You speak to me, I speak to you. Hi, how are you? Good. And India is a lovely country, and Sri Lanka is a wonderful country. I've been there. Nice beaches, very clean cities. I also come out to say lovely food. India has so much diverse. I can have any amount of diverse experience. It's like stepping into the globe. If I step into India, it's like stepping into the globe. You have everything. So that is not engagement. It's the engagement stance is where my mindsets, touches your mindset, where my heart touches your heart,
Wow.
where my requirement is accommodated by you and your requirement is accommodated by me. So, see, after the Second World War, we experience a world on a bipolar nature,
Mm.
basically.
Well, yes.
So then, I mean, now it is the context has completely changed. Now it is multipolarity.
Mm.
So when the NAM was formed, it was non-aligned movement. Lately, I would rather give this credit to Dr. Shashi Tharoor, who had been coining this term around, some time back. You need to be multi-aligned because not that everybody has everything.
Mm.
Because see, there are certain instances you take organizations, you take individuals. Not that every individual can deliver everything. So
Yeah.
you need to be multi-aligned to get a win-win situation. So that is what is quite important about this positioning, and it's about engaging and networking to deliver better to either ends. So this is what is expected out of me, and this is what is I'm trying to push through and to have, because we have a historical relationship between India and Sri Lanka. If I have to say that this has been asked by several people, so why did you pick up India? So a lot of
Yeah.
people can give different answers. My answer was, I'm seeing 20 years ahead of it.
Wow.
When you see it right now, I'm seeing 20 years ahead of it. So that
Fabulous.
is my simple answer. So that gives you everything. So basically, we have a historical relationship. Let that be language from Sanskrit, from Lord Buddha coming from India to Sri Lanka. So the Buddhism was, rather Buddhism was developed, or
Ah,
rather Buddhism was, you know, uh, preached from India. So everything is in India is kind of a big brother to Sri Lanka. So it's just kind of a, you know, you have somebody to shoulder. When it came to the economic crisis, also India was one of the first countries to come out to say, like, okay, fine, here we are helping. So there had been a lot of other friendly nations. If I'm to name few, it was China, USA, everything was coming forward. But the first call came from there. So it was a friendly nation coming to help. A friend in need is a friend indeed, rather. So
yes.
putting across things, it's about engagement. It's about engagement and the relationship, the bonding you have to each other. That bonding gives you a strong message how people are interacted to each other.
Hmm.
So
That's important.
that
Yes.
is what is important.
Wow. So we are looking forward here, to see you very soon. I'm also in India these days, so it is so good. So Anwar, as we wrap this up, what would be your advice to people who want to succeed in their career life?
Only thing I would tell them over and over again, have empathy towards others. It's about understanding the other's needs. See, there are instances you might even feel to blast at somebody. You might even feel to be atrocious to somebody. You might even feel, okay, fine, to ignore somebody. Put yourself in their shoes. Think, because that nothing is constant. Change is the only constant which is sustaining in the world. Change is the only constant. So
Yes.
nothing is constant. Change is the only constant. So remember that, and be have that empathy towards others, empathize towards others, and that will bring you the best in you, and you will automatically become success. Success is a relative definition. Your success and
Yeah.
my success are two different things.
Yes. Yes.
So
Everybody has the
the
definition.
best person, yeah, the best person who is known to be very successful is the person who has lent his hand to somebody else to grow up.
Wonderful. I think Anwar, just having this conversation with you, the word empathy has come so much in the forefront, and the way that you have coined humanitarian leadership. Thank you so much for taking that time to come here and share your knowledge, your insights with global leaders. Thank you so much for your time, Anwar.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And this one's for our listeners.
Thank
This
you.
is Anwar Hamdani and Payal Nanjiani wishing you loads of success in your career life. God bless.